Hello. I just wanted to tell you all about this cable I bought. This is a USB audio cable, so that means it's USB-C on one side and USB-B on the other. And has these nice brass-plated ferrite core inductors on it to keep the noise down. And this is called the VKheroKV. I had been using on my DAC, and I should say that I have just pretty much a starter DAC, the E32 Lite DAC from Topping, which I absolutely love. And I don't have expensive enough equipment to justify a higher end DAC, nor do I have the money for one. But interesting thing I found out by this, and I know that there are a lot of people out there who say that cables don't make a difference. I can tell you from experience that they do, and you can hear the difference. And if you haven't, I feel if you haven't listened to see if you can hear the difference between a set of cables on a system you're very familiar with, then you shouldn't be putting out any opinion on the subject. There's a lot of people who speak about it, but anyway, not going to go into that. So, previous to this, I had been using a small black USB cable, which I believe came with a DAC, though I really don't remember if the one I was using came with a DAC or not. And then alternatively, an old printer cable to see if I could tell any difference between the two. And I had to use an extender cable on both. So that means there was another USB extender cable on there, so there was a connection in the middle. Now, removing that setup and putting on this beast definitely made a difference. Oh, I should point out, before we go too far, 2 meter long cable here, $30. And without having any other audiophile DACs or cables to compare it to, I don't know for sure, but I consider it pretty much an audiophile cable in its performance. So replacing that setup, the jumper cable plus the USB B to C cable, with this one, it sounded like subjectively, I don't know if any differences could have been measured, but subjectively, the music sounded like there was more music. I know this description doesn't make sense, but I'll explain it a little bit better. But the first effect was feeling like there was more music, like I was hearing more music, almost as if it was louder even, but actually as if I was hearing more music in the music. And my feeling is in it is that that is due to the very good shielding on this cable and the ferrite cores and things, and that it seems to be well made and have good sized conductors to transmit the sound, and it's well shielded. So I definitely heard a difference. I have a starter DAC. My speakers are home built, so that's neither here nor there, but they're pretty light and sensitive through the mid-range area, not as good as a real high-end pair, but I was impressed that with my system I could hear the difference, and it was pretty definite. You know, your mileage may vary, but I wanted to point out another thing about this. Because of the good insulation and everything, and the good braiding and the thicker conductors inside, this is a stiff cable. And when I looked at reviews on Amazon for this thing, I noticed that one of the things people talked about was it breaking, and then cursed it for a cheap Chinese cable because it broke. I have been using this cable for a few months now, and I plug it in and out every day. As I use it, I plug it in. I find nothing wrong with this cable at all, and I can pretty much tell you why the majority of the users found a problem. It's because of the stiffness of the cable. Anytime you have a cable like this, you never can bend it at the connector. You don't want to bend this part that's in red at all. And it's not just this cable. Any cable that's stiff like that and has a connection will be weakest at the connection. And if you bend it at that connection point, it'll cause a problem. Now, as long as you can get a tight enough bend on this. You're not going to, if you only have a 1/16 of an inch between your equipment to get a cable, you're not going to get this one back there. But, something like that would be usable and not cause you a problem. But you're not going to get a much tighter bend than that out of it without, overstressing something. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I think myself, I consider this a very high value for the money, especially considering its well-made construction and uh, the fact that I actually heard a sound quality difference when I honestly had no idea for sure whether or not I was going to hear anything. Now, I might point out one other thing. Whether a person hears a difference or not is also going to depend on how much listening time and experience you have, because the memory, humans' memory of audio stuff is probably the weakest of all the types of memory of stuff. So it doesn't last very long in people. They forget things fast. So that's why A/B comparisons are a good way of testing things, because, you know, going for A and B, hear the change as fast as you can to really determine, you know. And you might say, well, if long term you're not going to tell the difference because you can't remember it, why bother? And I'll tell you why, because these things add up, and you get 3 or 4 of these things that sound better one way than the other, and they all add up, and pretty soon your system sounds enough better that you notice the difference. And it depends a lot on your learning and how much you listen. Somebody who listens to music with thoughts in their head and things going in front of them and thinking things and analyzing is not going to hear all of the music and not hear all the details as well as you can if you can quiet your mind, not have thinking and thoughts in the way, and just be present with the music. And if you can achieve that sense of presence, you'll hear so much more of the music. In fact, better than buying any cables. If you can't achieve that quietness and sense of presence when listening to somebody or something, that'll tell you more about what's there and let you hear the music better than replacing a cable will. But considering I have what most people in audio would consider an inexpensive system, um, it's well worth it. And it's all relative, you know. People who just don't care about audio won't even bother having a DAC, and that's okay too, in which case, there's no point in buying a good audio cable like this. But hey, if you listen and your ears are sensitive, it's worth it. So I recommend it with the knowledge that somebody knows it's stiff when they buy it. Thank you for watching.